Hello everyone, welcome back to the Vast Anonymous Comic Vault. I'm Captain Logan, and look, Kareem is back.
Hello, geek evolutionaries.
Kareem is going to help me chat about some Iron Fist. This was requested by Carl Maxey. Thanks a lot to you. He wanted us to talk about some of the Brubaker Fraction Iron Fist, Immortal Iron Fist. Actually, when I was reading this in digital, it took me a while to find it because I didn't realize the book was called Immortal Iron Fist, and it's not with all the other Iron Fist. And then I think we've used that title again since then, or there was one called Immortal Iron Fists, I think. But anyway, I digress. So we're going to do just the first arc of this, and I have actually read a little bit beyond that before. A couple years ago, Eric let me borrow this, and I started reading it. I think I was reading it actually before the TV show started, because I didn't know anything about Iron Fist. And I think this probably made that a lot worse, actually.
See, I tried it. I was in the middle of it, and then I watched the show, and I couldn't finish the season. Like, I was on my phone the entire time. And it just threw me off the character. I was like, eh. And I read it for this review, and I was like, wow, this is great. I mean, it's Ed Brubaker. It's, you can't miss.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not, immediately I should say, I'm not a big kung fu guy, and that's a genre that I've seen more of since then now, so I'm at least a little bit more, somewhat more familiar with it. I've seen a little bit of, like, Bruce Lee and stuff, which I'd not seen at all, even back when I, first read some of this stuff. But I think had I kept going, I was really liking it. I forget why I dropped off of it. But under Brubaker's pen, and also, who's the artist on this? David Aja?
Aja, I think, yeah. He
So
does Hawkeye with Matt Fraction.
It's so wonderfully atmospheric, and there's such a cool mythology behind it that I don't know that I really needed Kung Fu background to really appreciate it. I think having a little bit of that now makes the TV show even worse than it was, if that's possible, and does, I should say, make me appreciate the Kung Fu nature of this, because it does read like a Kung Fu movie, and it's wonderfully heightened. But I don't think I necessarily needed that.
You don't necessarily need it. I did grow up with like kung fu and karate movies.
Did you?
Not heavily, but I did have like a lot of, like, I watched the Jackie Chan movies, and Bruce Lee is still to this day one of my idols. So there's like some references and stuff like that, and it does a little bit of the story leans towards like Eastern philosophy and all that stuff. As far as like martial arts and stuff like that, like there's a Bruce Lee moment where he's like, be like water, which is a very Taoism kind of fluidity martial arts thing, I know. And then, like, I think he says like strike like fire or something like that. So there's like sprinkles of it, and then even Aja has some kicks that like mirror Bruce Lee, so I caught that. But no, you don't need
that's
it.
cool. And there's a number of names of particular martial arts moves and stuff that I'm sure are mostly real. Maybe he made some of them up, I don't know. But there's that, toward the end of the arc, there's that really cool scene where he and the other Iron Fist that shows up are both throwing out a whole bunch of different moves, and they start naming them all, and that's a lot of fun.
Which is always fun, yeah. No, there's so Marvel is, we did the DC videos, and I talked about like the pantheon allegory of like them being gods. So Marvel is kind of like, they're us. They're sort of down to earth a little bit, those characters. And they always have a section. So you got like your cosmic Marvel, your traditional superhero Marvel, your horror Marvel. So this leans towards more of the mystic side of Marvel, like kind of like Doctor Strange a little bit, but with a street level twist. And I really dug that. I really gravitated towards Iron Fist not just being a guy that kicks things. Like there's a mysticism about this character. So yeah, I think that was cool.
Yeah, and it's cool how he walks the line between being kind of just a guy and a guy that's always been deep-seated in that world, which makes him really different from your Daredevils and your Spider-Mans, right? Yeah. Where he never had a period of time where he didn't know about this stuff, and yet in this particular story, he seems almost as wet behind the ears as those guys. I think that's really cool. The idea that he's been training forever and he's had the Iron Fist for a long time. But when he meets somebody who knows even more than he does, it's all a matter of relativity and perspective, right? Like next to this guy, he doesn't know anything.
Yeah, and I kind of liked. That's kind of fresh for the genre because you're used to these sort of kind of stoic characters in these kung fu things where it's like they're very honorable and they don't really say much. But Danny Rand is a cool guy. Hangs out with Luke Cage. Like, we know the heroes for hire and stuff like that. So I dig that he's this billionaire, kid in over his head. And behind him is this mythology that he doesn't understand, and he's just coming to grips with it.
And it's able to get away with that, even though there's, decades of history already of this character, just because most people aren't really familiar with Iron Fist, especially at the point that this is published. This is like mid-2000s. This is like 05, 06.
This was after Civil. This was during or after?
This
Civil
is
War,
just after Civil War, and we should get into that some. They talk about that, and that ends up setting up a nice backdrop behind this, where he's on the other side where he didn't register, so the stakes are a little bit higher for him, because if he gets picked up by the police, he's going to get in trouble, and it's going to be a problem. And so there's kind of a nice bit of tension with that whole thing, and the kind of him versus the Captain America of it all. But not that character's in the story, but just everybody on that side. And also there's some nice dramatic tension with other heroes that he knows that have chosen the other side, and why he's upset with them for that. His whole world spins out of control because Misty Knight went the other way, and he can't deal with the fact that Misty, of all people, would be working for the government now.
He used to date Misty Knight, and with that heroes for hire thing. But it's an interesting status quo. I, of course, do not like Civil War. Like, I don't like the story, but the status quo I can't deny. It's always been interesting to me to have superheroes register either one way or the other way. I know Brubaker had this is supposed to be the seminal run on the Iron Fist character, and then Brubaker makes the seminal run on the Captain America character. So that's kind of just like a fun little. Yeah, that's a fun fact.
Because he gets in the heads of both sides, and it would have been really interesting, of course, if he had done Iron Man and then Captain America. But we didn't have to. But we didn't have to get like Iron Fist out of character in order to do this. So that's good.
No, I know this is I think this was co-written by Matt Fraction. I want to say so because this is, I think, 27 issue run or something like that. But Matt Fraction does Iron Man, and his run is very good on Iron Man. But anyways.
Well, and I can't remember if this is how long before his Iron Man this starts, or if his Iron Man had already started. Because I got into his Iron Man in 2010, 2011 when it was already 20, 30 issues in.
Okay. It might have been a little bit after that.
I think it was probably a little after this. But yeah, Fraction's name is on this from the beginning, and I don't know if there's a switchover where he's mostly writing it. I always thought of this as Fraction's Iron Fist, but then when I went back, I was like, oh no, Brubaker's name is first. And I don't know if Fraction's just sort of consulting or what, but he doesn't get a co-writing credit. His name's just on it. I'm not 100% sure what he's even doing in at least the early issues.
So one thing that, it's funny that we're talking about Matt Fraction. One thing that kind of pulled me out from the story was I think the art is great. I think the art is sort of reminiscent of Andrea Sortino. I think that's his or her name. That did the Green Arrow run with Jeff Lemire.
Yes.
The way Aja targets
Oh,
pieces.
did you say Sorrentino? Is that who we're talking about?
Yeah, Sorrentino.
Yeah, Sorrentino. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he targets areas of the places that Iron Fist is going to hit. I thought it was very reminiscent of that.
But I think also the line work and the coloring is somewhat similar to what he's doing there too. We don't have those cool, I guess, palette swaps that you have in Sorrentino as often, where you do almost the negatives that he'll do in panels. But other than that, yeah. But
one thing I found kind of annoying was Aja does art for Fraction's Hawkeye run, and when Clint Barton takes off his mask and stuff like that, he's this blonde guy with bandages on his face. When Danny Rand takes off his mask, he's this blonde guy with bandages on his face, and he looks exactly like I'm like it was just taking me out. Like, I'm very familiar with that run, so it's like I was like, why do they look the same?
And it's really funny, and now that you said that you mentioned Sorrentino also, because he also looks and a little bit like, but has very much the personality of Oliver Queen, or a lot of that anyway. Like, I see, especially after reading some of this, Iron Fist is some kind of odd amalgam between Oliver Queen and Matt Murdock, which is funny because, of course, like, he'll have some crossover with Matt Murdock, although not as often as he does with some other street level characters like Luke Cage and stuff. Like, this is obviously way before that kind of Defenders idea where we're always kind of tacking Daredevil onto that. But more often you have this kind of like, Daredevil's almost too A-list for these guys most of the time. Like you get Iron Fist and Luke Cage, and Power Man and Iron Fist was like a long running thing, and then you'll get the Heroes for Hire and like Misty Knight and Paladin and those kinds of characters together. But yeah, we tend to put like those three characters together, but not as often Daredevil. So it's kind of odd that he has a little bit of that, because I think he has some of that like man without fear thing where he'll take risks that not a lot of other people do. Maybe partly because he was raised to not have terror for anything on the streets because he had to fight a dragon, and I think some of that is in this, where it's like by the time I got to the dragon, I wasn't even scared of it because like I was so initiated. Like all I was really taught to do was fight a dragon.
No, it's very interesting, and Brubaker had a run on Daredevil, and it was funny because Danny Rand dresses up like Daredevil to make people think that it's not Matt Murdock after the Bendis run.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Yeah. But no, you're right about the dragon. I love how like comic book that is, and I love how comic book the villains are. Like Hydra in this is trying to like put real estate in Kunlun. Like,
yeah. So let's back off for a minute and just talk about like the main ideas of this and story points. So yeah, you're right. Like there's a really cool tone that's being balanced here, and I love stuff like this where we get really street level, really serious. The themes are pretty serious, but you don't skimp out on some of the kind of absurd, goofy comic stuff, and that stuff doesn't take you out because it's played so straight. And there's a lot of things that have a hard time with that sort of balance, but I feel like that's kind of Brubaker's MO. Like he always writes like that. Rucka's like that too.
Yeah. No, Brubaker always reminds me of Rucka. Just the same kind of
interesting
or similar kind of styles. But yeah, he has that. I don't mean to talk about his other runs, but like in his Captain America runs, it's like the spy, like straight spy espionage story with like Batroc the Leaper in the middle of it. Like it's just ridiculous. But it's that cool balance that comic books have, where they can play it straight and have these great stories. But
because we open this with simultaneously Hostile Takeover and Giant Spider.
Yeah.
It's great. Like from the beginning, it feels like and I guess we're marrying those things perfectly from the beginning, right? Where it feels like at first the big issue is corporate espionage, right? Like it starts out with there's going to be a hostile takeover because this company that Rand was supposed to work with to develop a train in, is it Japan or where? I forget.
China?
Is it? Oh, that's right. No, of course. That's important. He doesn't want to work with the Chinese because of their history of human rights violations, and he won't commit to. And I thought this was a little bit strange. He won't commit to this plan they have to work together, where they're supposed to spend like $1.4 billion on this. I like that line where that guy's like, "Well, fine. I'm sure we'll find something to spend our $1.4 billion focus on, and he says it's because of the human rights violations, and then we're going to find out that it's actually because it's Hydra. But I wondered why he even got into that meeting in the first place. Like, did he? Because I'm trying to remember now. Did he know walking into that it was Hydra and that's why he didn't do it, or did he find that out like immediately after? And even if he didn't know it was Hydra, how could he have gotten to that point where they're about to like sign the thing and not know enough to go, yeah, I'm not gonna work with China on this? Like, I don't know. I thought it was weird that it got him. Like, I realize he's not running the company like day to day. That's Hogarth, but. Did you have that though, where it's like how did it get this far though? You think you would have shut it down before it got to that moment?
I wasn't asking those questions. It's comic book. No, but
oh, okay.
I didn't get the sense that he knew. I got the sense that Hydra was just, what they do. They're slowly just surrounding someone. Before you know it, you're just surrounded by dudes in green jumpsuits for no reason. I didn't get the sense that he was like, He was the smartest guy in the room, and he knew what was happening to his company.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong.
No, I think you are right about that. It's just here while we're talking about it momentarily, I was like, wait a minute, is it that maybe he knew? No, I don't think he did know. I think he kind of got lucky, because what's weird is the book plays it after that, like it talks in places about how kind of impulsive and rash he is. And again, he has that Oliver Queen thing. He has that liberal billionaire thing. But sort of pacifistic, but I guess not really, because he's a kung fu guy. But it's like Hydra shows up, and he just gets kind of lucky that he was right not to work with them, and I guess obviously the human rights violation thing is maybe enough, although that guy kind of has a point when he's like, that's our government, we didn't really make those we didn't really make those decisions, but then it turns out they're Hydra, so they're just as bad. But the book is acting like look how rash he was for making that decision, and I'm thinking well, yeah, but he did the right thing though. He was right about it, so I guess it was okay that he was kind of rewarded for it. I don't understand what point the book's making right now.
No, now that you mention it, I could see how that comes off strange. But I like that it's just not, obviously it's a kung fu thing. It's not just a corporate takeover. They're challenging Iron Fist too. And then
exactly.
You've got the other component of Iron Fist being a mantle, through the centuries and stuff like that, which is awesome.
That's the coolest thing about this, right? Is the kind of lineage and legacy of it. And Brubaker has such a good command of storytelling that even when you're not sure why he's showing you something, you're never worried that it's not going to matter. There's a lot of things that I find myself reading where it's like issue 10, I finally know why I've been looking at this, and I'm kind of struggling through it, pushing myself, going, I don't know why I'm supposed to care. I don't have that with this, where you have all these flashbacks of Iron Fist from different time periods. And it just, for whatever reason, it always feels like it's going to pan out, and it's going to matter. And it matters faster than I think it's going to, and it's more personal for Danny Rand than I think it's going to be. That reads like maybe a subplot for a while, and it's very quickly integrated into the A story, right? When he finally meets Orson Randall.
Orson Randall. Yeah. And I was worried that they were going to put them he was going to be a villain or something. I'm glad that they worked together and had that sort of mentor, because that's indicative of the genre. That you always have the mentor, kung fu character teaching the rash kid how to be a better master.
Yeah, and what's funny is I latch on to all of the kind of classic superhero stuff in this, and if you know. If you know a lot of street level superhero stories, and also legacy Mantle things, there's also a lot there for you, and it's interesting how often those things actually kind of cross each other, right? Because the wise old mentor guy, and I wondered how old he was supposed to be, because he stopped being.
He fought in World War I, right?
Yeah, he stopped being Iron Fist back in the 30s, but he doesn't look like he's 70-something.
I think the chi, or whatever the energy is with Iron Fist, slows the aging.
Maybe that's what
That's
it's
how I
supposed
put
to
it in my
be.
head.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been using the Iron Fist this whole time, so it made me wonder
that's
if, like, does that end up being a separate thing? Like, does anybody that commands, chi in that magnitude able to do that? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you don't have to have the Iron Fist to do that. Now, I just feel like any criticism I throw out, Kareem's just going to go, it's a comic book.
It's the truth. I like that he's not the perfect mentor either. Like, he's kind of jaded from the war and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and he does have. Like,
what I was going to say is, what I was going to say is, he reminds me more of Stick than anything.
Yeah, now that you say that, no, you're right. He's not that much of a jerk like Stick is.
No, that's the big difference. But just in the role that he's filling, and well, yeah, I mean, I'm constantly like comparing and contrasting this to all kinds of other superhero stuff, and I think that's a lot of what engaged me with it. Where he's like Stick, but A, he's not a jerk, and B, he's not like the paranoid guy that Stick is, but he's also like, depending on how you want to look at it, maybe he's a coward, maybe he's not a coward. Like, it just depends on what you think he should have done in that situation when he chose to leave and stop being the Iron Fist.
Oh, yeah. And you said Green Arrow a little bit earlier, and I'm like having a hard time getting that out of my head because it's a billionaire guy. Like you said, he's like kind of a liberal billionaire fantasy. So there's a lot of like juxtapositions with these. There's a lot of billionaire superheroes.
Yeah, and then I can't help but compare the father-son story with Green Arrow and with a lot of other things as well. And then of course his bad guy has to be an evil Iron Fist,
which I loved. It's just Iron Fist but purple.
But purple, yeah. It's like a Mortal Kombat character.
No, but the mentor thing and the fact that it's a mantle reminds me of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yeah, I know what that is, but I've not watched it. And people have been for years been trying to get me to watch it. Jason's a big fan of it.
Oh, you would love it. But there's a lot of that kind of Eastern, like, just passing on the mental. But yeah, the villain is awesome. I love like, he has this, like, female thing, which I don't get. Like, he only equips female warriors. Did you catch that? And
yeah. Well, I think that had something to do with the way he was brought back from the dead.
Okay. Because he like, talks to this mother entity.
Yes.
Thing.
So there's and it's this big mysterious kind of occult thing called the Crane Mother, and the Crane Mother has these it's like the statuesque looking like 1,001-year-old like elderly lady that looks like she's gonna fall apart at any moment, and she keeps providing the villain. I'm trying to remember his name right. It's Steel Serpent. She keeps and by the way, that's Davos. That's the guy from the TV show. So you got Davos, and you've also got Jaren Hogarth, who I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit, because I also can't help but compare him to Foggy Nelson constantly. But he is in the comic book a guy, and then it's Jerry Hargoth in. Is
that what it is? I was wondering about that.
Yeah, it's a gender swap, unless they changed it in the comics somewhere later, but I don't know because I've not read that stuff. But yeah,
so it's Jane Olsen.
Exactly. Yeah, they're two different Hogarths, and also he has a totally different job in this because he's actually Iron Fist's friend, and he runs his company, and in the TV show, it's a lawyer, but also doesn't even start in Iron Fist. She starts in Jessica Jones. Yeah, she's something of an antagonist, but sometimes a kind of like uneasy ally.
Yeah.
In that show, who I don't like most of the time. They do some okay things with her, but
and she magically heals her arms from the first season of Jessica Jones. Which bothers me.
I don't even remember that.
Oh, that bothers me. Anyway.
Maybe she secretly...
Wolverine?
No, she secretly has powers because she also went to Kunlun, and we just didn't know about it.
She is Trinity, I mean...
That's true. But if she was Trinity, she would need Neo to like get into her heart and pump it for her with his hand. They don't have that scene.
But there's a line that's probably my favorite line in the 6 issues, where he's talking to the mother entity, the Crane mother, and
get us back on track.
I think he is, and she's saying like, if you fail, I will have your soul until the sun burns out. And because this is like mysticism Marvel, I believe her, and it's so terrifying. It's so terrifying.
Well, the rule in Marvel is every like religious mythology and philosophy is actually true.
Yeah. Which is awesome.
Yeah, all of them are true. And sometimes you'll get crackpots that will espouse things that aren't true, but if there is a distinctly like superhero or supervillain character that espouses like an occult thing or like a good guy god mythology, it's gonna be true. And so you can somehow have like multiple different underworlds too. You know, you can have the underworld, the like the Wakanda underworld, but you can also have the Thor underworld. Like they're all there.
No, that's always been amazing. But you have your standard like the hero meets the villain and they have this standoff, which is done very well. I mean, Asha knocks it out of the park. I really like it.
Yeah, it's really good. I don't have a whole lot of complaints about this. Besides,
I mean, it's a very quick read too.
Yeah, which is nice because there's another thing we're going to review later that's pretty overwritten in places, and I don't know. We're starting to get into a period in the mid 2000s where we're finally, and like early too, but especially by the mid 2000s, most books are a lot more art driven than they are language driven.
Yeah, and I know we say this a lot, we allude to it a lot, but it's nice to kind of go back to the early 2000s and look at these gems. Just a lot of stuff, you know, the social media age and everything that's just happened kind of informs this time. So it's nice to just go back, and it was a little bit more carefree, but that seeps down to the stories, right? You still kind of had Marvel has a tendency to get allegorical and political a little bit, so the Superhero Registration Act is kind of like the Bush stuff, and which we won't get into, but it's nice to just go back, because I've never read this.
Yeah.
So it reads with ease, I'd say.
And holds up really well. You're right. Like, at the time, this is the kind of thing where at the time, those kinds of allegories are really clear. It's not horribly in your face about it. I don't think it's preaching at you about it. It has its ideas about that, but it's not inviting you to not have your own ideas, certainly. So, you know, obviously that's important, and I always appreciate that. Yeah. But it doesn't read outmoded either. Like just story-wise anyway, this could come out like yesterday and be about the same. Like you could publish this now.
Yeah, and it does the best thing that Marvel does, which is it's a guy under the mask. Like, he eats Chinese food with his best friend. Like, Danny Rand's an awesome guy. Like, he's not just a cardboard box. And we won't keep walking on the show, but man.
Well, yeah, and I mean, but if you have to go there again, but he's not whiny, and you know what he wants, and he's fun. Like the Green Arrow TV show and the Iron Fist TV show both had that problem where they were trying to figure out how to make their characters more jaded, and I don't know why that's necessary when the world around them is already so bleak.
Yeah, that's true, and it's a story played so straight.
Like, if you don't need to try to make your protagonist seem more realistic or even more like anti-hero-ish if the world around them is really oppressive and trying to beat them down. Like that should be your anchor point. There's this overcompensation that happens sometimes where we think that in order for it to feel like it's it's believable and set now. We have to make everybody hate everything, and be no fun at all, and not find any joy in life. And like there's enough lack of joy around Danny Rand, and also this is a book that I think has enough levity, but it's not. It's not a jokey thing. There's not any place where I'm actually like laughing at, but it doesn't feel relentless or anything. There's an arc, I want to say it's like 2 or 3 in, with probably the hardest torture scene I've ever sat through. With this book gets really rough later on. There's a whole thing with I think it's the female Iron Fist. I can't remember. It's one of the flashbacks. There's a whole thing with like a glass torture sequence. It's like the hardest thing I've ever looked at as far as those go. And I'd like to read the rest of this and review it at some point.
Same here. But this makes me really interested in the run. It gets violent, though.
It definitely goes to those places. One of the best things it does is it never... I feel like we're maybe talking a little bit too general. We should mention some more specifics. But this... Iron Fist doesn't read as a B-lister.
Yeah. Brubaker handles him like he would any other character. It's just he's just writing a superhero story, and it doesn't feel like he's just this reject hero. He feels like he can stand alongside like the guys like Daredevil and Spider-Man and stuff. There's a reason why everyone points to him as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, martial artist in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, and it's that way in the characterization and just in the attitude of it. And I like that he doesn't even feel the need to comment on the popularity or lack thereof of this character, like we sometimes do with Aquaman or with Black Panther. With this, we just come right in and we tell an Iron Fist story, and it being a little bit more underground and not as showy and not as public is just the character. This is all stuff that's happening more or less secretly. It's a secret mystical city that birthed these things, and it's the kind of culture underneath the culture. Like, nobody's supposed to know about it. So, of course, he's not an A-list hero because nobody knows about this stuff.
Yeah, he's sort of got the like I said, the Doctor Strange meets Daredevil thing, where it's not magic, but it is mysticism. Like, there's secret cities that no one can go to. And plus, you've got the street level thing, where it's like, it doesn't have to be this massive guy that's attacking the entire city and everyone knows, and Spider-Man and everyone comes in and saves the day. Like, it's a personal kung fu kind of story.
Yeah, and it's got this kind of gravitas about it because the legacy makes it feel more epic. So like again, constantly going back to the different Iron Fists give it this really cool scope. And also, he's fighting all of Hydra. Like, it is a pretty large scale story in the first place, but like it feels smaller because nobody knows anything's going on.
I believe there was a female Iron Fist that I found so cool.
Yeah, she's neat, and she'll come back. You'll see more of her.
Okay, cool. What's his name? Orson has this Obi-Wan moment at the end. I don't know if we want to get into that, but he like gives Danny Rand his chi when he's defeated. Yeah. Which I found really, like, it should have been cheesy. It's not. It's just like, okay.
No, I didn't even think of that as an Obi-Wan moment. That just seemed like what happened there. Yeah, no, good call. That's great. Yeah, because I mean, we're kind of just following your standard hero's journey, and so like that stuff is familiar but feels fresh again. And the typical hero's journey plays best when you're not noticing it, when it's kind of like underneath it. Yeah. Like when you sit down and you have to analyze it and you peel things back and you deconstruct it, you go, oh, okay, I see. Here's all the John Campbell. Like I'd say, I'd see this stuff. But as I'm reading it, like it's just a good story about a kid with a mentor who's in over his head and didn't realize it, and it makes a lot of sense that he didn't realize it because he's actually been doing this for quite a while, but he hasn't had to deal with this scope of the mythology yet.
I was asking a little bit like, why now though? Like, why does Orson come now? I was like, what? I
want to say that becomes more clear as we go along. But
maybe
it's been
this is the first arc.
but it's been a little while, yeah. And I mean, like, he's going to find out more about the other Iron Fists, certainly. And there's a really cool, sense of mystery right away. Like, it's only the second issue where he passes out, and like he's maybe even going to die from this, where there's not supposed to be more than one person that can use the Iron Fist at once. And I don't remember if there's an explanation or if there's not one, because I was a little bit confused about this. Like at first it's, oh, somebody else is using the Iron Fist and that's not supposed to happen, and then once he meets Orson, that never happens again. Was there an explanation for that? Like,
I didn't catch that.
For why after that both of them were able to use it without it affecting either of them?
Maybe it has consequences later.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't catch what was going on with that. But I like that there was a distinction made where it was like, well, people have stolen it from me before, but you've never had two at the same time.
No, I kind of like that he's a little bit cynical. I've been watching the Blade movies, so he kind of reminds me of Whistler a little bit.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, but like even a little bit nicer than that guy, I think.
Yeah, Whistler's a jerk too.
because Brubaker is doing a really good job of making his character sympathetic. And
he is a war vet,
and he's not. Yeah, I mean, he's not forcing that sympathy. Sympathy doesn't mean likable, but at the same time, I do appreciate that he's kind of likable, or at least reasonable, right? Where he'll dog on Danny for being kind of lazy, where he's like, look, I'm giving you the rule book, read it. You remember that? Like, that's great.
Yeah,
it's like, this is hard to read. I don't understand what I'm looking at. Yeah, it's all right there, okay? Just look at it. It's like whenever an English teacher says Shakespeare is in English. And real quick, I was just gonna say, I think the whole thing with the parentage is really interesting. Where he's talking about how like he trained his father, and his father should have been Iron Fist.
That also reminded me of the Green Arrow thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Oliver Queen's dad.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant earlier when I said that. Like, I was comparing those father and son things because yeah.
No, but just to geek out a little bit, I love that each Iron Fist has their own weapon. Like, he has twin guns, and it's like his Iron Fist energy goes through the guns. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's neat that works. Like, I never would have thought of that. That's Brubaker looking at what was there before and going like how can I make this more visual?
Yeah.
Because the Iron Fist as an idea is a weird thing to draw. Your hand glows. And then, of course, in the TV show, we went as far as we could to make it as uninteresting as humanly possible.
It's not on fire in the show.
And in this, it's really epic. But it helps, like you said, that there's this cool history of mythology where there's all these different ones. They all use it differently.
Which I know we keep harping on the show, but it's like, why wouldn't you use this as a framework for that? Like, just throw in that mythology. I didn't even see season 2, so it could have been, but.
I mean, it's better, but not by much. Like,
man, I was on my phone the entire time. That's the worst. That's the worst thing I could say about a show.
Yeah, it's sad, and like I said, it was worse after looking at this because this is so like cinematic, and it's of course got the movie storyboard thing that we're always talking about. That you could pretty well just adapt this straight, like.
Yeah.
You'd maybe need a movie budget. You'd probably have to scale it back a little bit for Netflix, but back when we were making those. But money not being an object, you just take this exactly as it is. I could see an Iron Fist animated show based on this.
Ooh, that would be cool.
Even, and that would be pretty neat. But I mean, it's wonderfly cinematic, and a really good mix of like talky stuff, because this is not a talky book, and really exciting action sequences. I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I can't wait. I was gonna say I can't wait for the Shang-Chi thing. I hope it's a martial arts movie.
Yeah.
Which, from what I hear, that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah, and this is the kind of atmosphere that you would want for a thing like that.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting too. Like I know I keep harping on this, but the kung fu stuff of that was once a wave of movies that have died out and have become less popular. And it's like we always talk about superhero movies doing that. Like, will they go the way of the westerns? So it's like interesting to combine all of these things, and it makes for a writer like Brubaker just handles it like a contemporary story.
We're mostly talking about a setup arc. So there's I keep wanting to get into character analysis stuff. We don't have quite enough to do a whole lot of that yet because it's because it's mostly just the setup. He is a. He's a pretty menacing villain from the start, and a good kind of mirror for the hero. But we don't have a whole lot about him yet. We have to.
They do leave it at a standoff, right? Like they both don't defeat each other.
Yep.
I guess the only thing that's emotionally going on with Danny Rand is like him being confused about his past and what was his father like and stuff like that. Which shows a little bit of.
Mm-hmm. And again, like I think it's just sort of this. It's almost like the beginning of like a second coming of age story where it's like.
Yeah.
Almost like he's not old enough for it to be a midlife thing, but it's almost like a midlife coming of age. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I kind of thought I had myself figured out, but like, you got to really know where you came from to fully understand who you are now.
Which is very Eastern, too.
Yeah, that's a good call. Well, and there's maybe a little bit of like, has he gotten too Americanized the longer he's lived here?
Yeah. And that's like a common theme of like Western. That's a pulp theme too. That's like Western heroes going to learn Eastern philosophies and stuff like that, coming back, and using their heroics as Eastern heroes. I guess
it's funny. We always have to go to the East to find enlightenment, which suggests that America is not enlightened.
No comment.
I'm just saying, suggests it. Potentially, I'm not saying one way or another, but anyway, I don't know how many folks have read this, so I didn't want to get too nitty gritty unless we continue this and do some more of it down the road. But that's just kind of the setup of it, and it's great. It's classic Brubaker.
Luke Cage is in this.
Luke Cage is in this. and it, like all the kind of staples of Iron Fist are here. Like, this is a wonderful place to start with this character because it's very modern and it's very readable, and it's not in the second person like early Iron Fist was. You are Iron Fist, but
was it got really.
Oh, it's awesome! Yeah. Have you not seen the video I did where I read one?
No.
Eric and I and Dan did a video because Dan found us this. Or was it Eric? One of them found us this fantastic issue of Iron Fist, and it's not just this issue. That whole. It's. Wow. I think it's the. It's not Stan Lee, but I forget who it was. But I think it's the first run of Iron Fist, and he every issue is in the second person. And there's this issue where he's going through this building and it's booby-trapped. And it reads like a choose-your-own-adventure where you don't get to pick what happens. Or like you're going through this building. And I got on camera and I just read it dramatically. And go back and find that video. It's hilarious.
Okay.
It's like,
I definitely will.
And like you walk over the flames and, it's fantastic.
All right, I want to be Iron Fist.
Yeah, it's really funny, but this has all those major trappings, and I'm glad you brought up Luke Cage because you got to have that because Power Man and Iron Fist were a big deal, and I'm sure he keeps cropping back up in here and there, and like it gives you a lot of that history without it feeling like you're even getting that. Like you may read this if it's the first Iron Fist thing you've read and not. Understand until you get to the end of the arc. Oh, I just learned a whole bunch of stuff about Iron Fist. Like it's not recappy. It's not in your face about it. It's a really good TV pilot ultimately because it's telling a story at the same time it's establishing everything, but you don't realize it's establishing things.
Absolutely, super accessible, great jumping on point, and it is contemporary, which is important. It's you don't have the old school narration bubbles and this is the kind of the Bendis contemporary Luke Cage you get where it's like modernized. It's not some dude in it with an afro and some.
It's not the sort of like blaxploitation Luke Cage.
Yeah. This is actually Luke Cage with character and stuff like that. But it's a small little thing. You know that like one of the best friend duos, along with Foggy and Matt.
Yeah.
Stuff at Marvel.
Oh yeah, I meant to mention that with Hogarth. I like that relationship a lot, where he's got this guy who runs his company for him because he's too busy being Iron Fist, but he also doesn't know anything about how to run a company. And you feel sometimes like Oliver Queen or Bruce Wayne should have that guy. I mean, Bruce Wayne very often does have that guy, but sometimes they don't, and it'll be like, you guys don't have time to run your company. Even if you know what you're doing, you have no idea what's happening there because you're never there. And, like, find somebody you trust and let him run it. So, like, Danny is already... is already kind of ahead of the curve on that, but of course he makes the final decisions. And I don't know, I just wish they'd come out, Kareem, and said, like, he hasn't been paying attention. He just found out about this $1.6 billion deal and said no. Because it doesn't read like that. It reads like he's been there every step of the way, but now he's vetoing it. And anyway, so Hogarth's like, well, look, I've worked on this for 3 years. And
does it go that far?
Yeah, he says, I've worked on this for that is 3 years of my life wasted, and if we're not doing this deal, I'm out. And he quits, he leaves. And then in the very next issue, he goes, nah, never mind, I came back. And at first I'm like, well, that's weird. That read like just a dramatic scene for no reason if he's going to come right back. And then it actually makes sense, because it turns out that the reason he's come back is because he's realizing that it's a hostile takeover. And that begrudgingly he's like half admitting that Danny was right about these guys and that they shouldn't do business with them. And then, or at least that's how it reads in the moment. And then later we're going to find out that there's a blackmail situation and that they have his mother. And so he has to work with them or they're going to kill his mom. And there's a roller coaster ride with Hogarth emotionally, because they keep making you wonder like where his loyalties lie and stuff, where it's like, is he just messing with Danny and has been in their pocket the whole time? Oh no, they're blackmailing him. Oh, okay. Or it's a hostage situation. Okay. So
yeah, I love that scene too, where he's like, they have my mom.
Yeah. So that's wonderfully tense. But that's a really cool relationship. He's kind of, I don't know. He's kind of like Foggy Nelson and like Alfred, like rolled up into one.
Yeah, it's kind of like if Lucius Fox was more of a best friend to Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I like how personal it is between them.
Because I also had that moment where I was like, well, no, wait a minute, because before this run, and again, I've read this once before, I didn't know that character at all, and so I didn't know that he knew that Danny Rand was Iron Fist, and I kind of wondered what his feelings were about the Iron Fist, because you get that with Foggy Nelson, like, you know, right, that he doesn't like that Matt, dresses up and goes and fights crime. I don't know how Hogarth feels about it, and so when he puts on the outfit, like right in front of him, I'm like, oh wait, whoa, he knows about it. And then I had that moment where I went, like I said, Brubaker kept kind of taking me for a ride on this, and on purpose. Like he's got such a good command of narrative. He's always manipulating me in just the right ways, right? And I'm like, well, wait a minute, how come he's not talking about Hydra? Like if he knows that Danny Rand is Iron Fist, and then we'll find out later. Oh, okay, that's because they're gonna kill his mom. Okay, and then that made sense. And then he gets in his friends, like, and then he helps him out and they save his mom and all that. But yeah,
it's a good setup part. No, but he makes us like him. I never knew about Hogarth. I was wondering when I read the name, I was like, is this the same as the character from Jessica Jones? But
no, because it's a guy. Because it's a slightly overweight, like 50-year-old man.
I was like, is this the brother of her, or is this the husband? But we do that all the time with comic books.
Yeah, well, because they have the same name but different. But anyway, well, anything else you wanted to mention before we close up shop?
No, that's it. This is a good jumping on point. This is the seminal run of Iron Fist.
We might try to do some more of this down the road. I certainly would like to. I'm at least going to finish the run at some point, but I would like to sit down and review it. So Kareem and I may come back and do more of this. But anyway, I want to thank Carl Maxey for suggesting it and requesting it, and we will see you guys again with another one real shortly. If you would like to request a comic for review or a movie for review off the cuff, you can join the $15 tier on Patreon. That's patreon.com/geekvolution. You can do it just one time, jump on for a month and jump back off of it, and that'll get you on the list. Or if you want to stay in the rotation, you'll get one every 2 to 3 months or so. So thanks so much for watching once again, and we'll see you again next time. I was Captain Logan, and that was Kareem. Later, folks.
Later, guys.